This here is another viewer's broken gaming PC. Wait, why is the audio out of sync? Why are you saying things that he's not saying in the video? Oh my gosh, this is gonna drive me crazy. Hi, my name is Greg. I'm filming from my desk because I had some audio issues at the beginning of this video, and of course I didn't realize that until I started editing. So you're gonna see some voiceover action. You're gonna hear some voiceover action at the beginning of this one. The good thing is once I start troubleshooting, you won't have to deal with this anymore. If you're seeing a shot of my lips moving and I have to voice over it, I'm just gonna grayscale that clip, and I'll try to put as much B-roll over it as possible so that it doesn't annoy you. It's already annoying me, so I know it's going to annoy some of you, and I apologize for that. I've already ordered new audio equipment so that this does not happen again. So just the beginning of the video I have to do this, and then I think one other section of the video a bit later, but the rest of it is good. So yeah, sorry again. So this build is, well, it's huge. First off, there's a lot of cable clutter. It's kind of an older system, Z270, I believe, which I didn't actually realize at the time. I knew it was an Intel platform, I just didn't know how old it was. And the graphics card is a GTX 970. Now, according to the viewer, this system flat out refuses to post, which I assume means that it does receive power and does quote unquote turn on, but we don't get a picture out. So we're gonna try to work our magic in this one. I already know, of course, how this turns out because I'm filming this after the fact, but I really think you're gonna enjoy it, and I think that you're gonna be wanting to hit me over the head with something once you realize what actually was wrong with the build. Stay with me. If you're anything like me, you probably wake up in the morning and jump onto social media aimlessly browsing for the latest industry headlines. But what if I told you there was a better way? Incoming Morning Brew. It's a free daily newsletter designed to be witty, relevant, and informative. I've been staying on top of the topsy-turvy stock market thanks to Morning Brew's palatable briefings, and when something spikes or dips in after hours or overnight trading, Morning Brew lets me know. They make it so easy to navigate various stories on mobile. Simply wake up, check your inbox, and you'll find a daily Morning Brew newsletter packed with the latest hardware surveys, whistleblower testimonies, and more. So if you're interested in business, finance, or tech, or maybe even all three, be sure to subscribe to Morning Brew. It takes literally seconds and is totally free. Just click the sponsor link below to get started today. Now in this clip here, all I'm doing is discussing the methodology behind choosing the systems that I choose for this playlist to fix. I get a lot of inquiries in the Orlando, Florida area, but many of them have to do with software issues, and I'm just not very comfortable troubleshooting software. Not only can it take several days to diagnose, but I'm not super familiar with it either. The hardware stuff is generally easier to troubleshoot. I think anyone in IT, for the most part, would agree with me on that, and especially when we're talking about larger components, swapping things out takes seconds. Anyone could do this. You don't even need a high school diploma. So the first part, again, of every troubleshooting process should be to plug in the system and attempt to replicate the issue described by the owner. And in this case, if you recall, the system apparently turns on but does not post. So we're going to connect it here. I'm going to click the power button and see what happens. And you can see we do have power. The LEDs in the fan for the CPU cooler are on, but we're not getting a post. Nothing, just a black screen. Okay, I'm finished voicing over for now. I do apologize again. I know this is super annoying. There is one other section where I do have to do this, but the meat and potatoes of the video is good to go. Let's get into it. So I spent the last few minutes checking both DVI and DisplayPort connections directly from the motherboard, still not getting a picture out. This could be though because the CPU doesn't have an integrated graphics processor. We're gonna check that now. This is a, let's see here, i7 7700K. So that's not a, they didn't have KFs back then, I don't think. So yeah, this should have an integrated graphics processor, or an IGP, if you want to use the abbreviated version of that. It means that there is a way for this CPU to output video, right, directly from itself. It doesn't need a discrete card to output that video. So we should be getting a picture, and we're not getting a picture from either this or the discrete card. So I'm actually inclined to think that his 970 is okay, which I suppose is a really good thing in this market. You know, this is one of the more expensive components in this build, given current conditions and how expensive graphics cards can be. I'm still gonna swap this out though, just to be sure. And I'm also gonna try booting into the IGP without a discrete card in here. Maybe the motherboard's just defaulting to trying to send video out through this card because it detects that a card is here. So we'll remove this as well. I'll take care of this stuff off camera very quickly. And more bad news, neither of the things I just tried worked. We get no picture out from the CPU or the IGP in the CPU when plugging directly into the motherboard with no discrete card in here. And when I do connect the discrete card that I know works, like this GT710, my trusty old 710 I've used in several fix or flop videos by this point, we still get no picture from a card that we know works. So something very, very sneaky is happening with this rig. I'm starting to suspect the motherboard over anything else. It could also be the CPU, because if the CPU is bad, it doesn't matter what card you have in your system. You're not going to get picture out, right? Your CPU is one of your first lines of defense. So yeah, motherboard or CPU. And the problem is, this is an older platform. I don't readily have like motherboards that I can swap this one out. This is a Z270 motherboard. That's a couple generations old by this point. So I'll have to order one. I don't really have another choice. Let's see what else we can do though. I might have a few other things to try. So in my closet here, I mean, I have a few motherboards. I know this is probably more than most of you have, and that's just because this is what I do for a living. But the closest board I have to being compatible with a 7700K is a Z370, and actually the board that's in there is not even a Z370 motherboard. It's like a much older board. So yeah, I don't have anything to test that 7700K with. What I suppose I can do, however, is swap out both the motherboard and the CPU with a setup that I know works, and we just go from there. I'm sure it'll fix the issue, but that won't really tell us which one specifically is wrong, either the motherboard or the CPU. So now I have disconnected every non-vital connection. That excludes only the 24-pin and the 8-pin EPS. And what that does essentially is rule out any user error, any short anywhere else on the motherboard, although again, this doesn't look like a short. This isn't how shorts typically look. I do want to mention that up front, but this will help us narrow down the motherboard if it is the motherboard or the CPU that's connected to the motherboard. I don't think this is RAM. We could try reseating RAM, but actually we should probably, well, we'll do that in a second. Reseating RAM is probably one of the easier things to do, so we should try that sooner rather than later. But I do want to, let's see, we'll power it on. Let's see if we get a post. Oh, I forgot. I need to jump. I always forget to do this. I need to jump the pins because I disconnected them. All right, there we go. Power supply is spinning. And we're just waiting now for a post if one ever shows up, although I doubt it.
A few moments later.
And that's enough waiting. Still no joy. I am going to swap RAM with a stick that I know works. I'm just going to stick with one DIMM in the first slot that needs to be populated. That's denoted right here next to the slots on the board itself. And we'll try booting up this way before we swap the platform. I'm crossing everything I got in hopes that this works, because if it doesn't, it's going to be a pretty beefy upgrade. I keep forgetting I need to jump the dang board. There we go. Let's see, now we've officially rolled out everything except for the motherboard, CPU, and power supply, although yeah, the power supply seems fine to me. Yeah, still not seeing a post. GG. By the way, I did do the very quick things that you should do in the beginning. I cleared the CMOS, and well, I should have swapped RAM earlier than this, but doesn't seem to be fixing the issue anyway. Wow, I feel like I got bit by something on my elbow. And still nothing with the graphics card in the lower full-length PCIe slot. I'm really trying to give this platform the benefit of the doubt, but like I said earlier, if we're not getting picture out even from the 7700K itself, that tells me that it's, again, either the motherboard or the CPU. So I guess at this point, I have really nothing left to try. Let's get this thing out of here. Hi there, Greg from the future again, just one more time. In this clip here, I talk about how I noticed that there was an LED debug indicator on the right side of this Z270 board. And I noticed that when I powered the system on, the top two LEDs would flicker for a split second, the CPU and the DRAM, I believe, and then they would cut right back off. And you can see in the B-roll here, this is what was happening. It happened so quickly that I didn't notice it even turning on before, which is why I didn't even know it existed, because the lights were on for fractions of a second. But this prompted me to swap power supplies just to be on the safe side, because I wasn't really sure why we were getting that odd flicker. This could be a short, but it ended up not being one, and I'm kind of glad, because at this point I was already so deep into replacing the platform that I had already kind of committed to removing things. So what I ended up doing was upgrading his entire platform with stuff that's much newer. So he has a 9900KS in this build now, and I think it's a Z390 motherboard. I don't really remember. It's a Gigabyte Designare board. So a very beautiful motherboard, beautiful platform. He's got a 9900KS in there now, which is like double the cores, double the threads. He's set. He's good to go. I did reuse his RAM, but that's, DDR4 to DDR4 is no problem there. But yeah, this platform is much newer, and I think he's going to be happy with this. At the end of the day, like I said, I knew that it was either the motherboard or the CPU, so replacing both was just this safe play while I was in the process of ordering other components because I didn't have any to test with. So that's what you'll hear me talk about here in a second. But yeah, so this platform is new for him, and we turn it on, make sure that it works. He's good to go. So I think at this point, I'm gonna let him keep these upgrades, and these are definitely upgrades over his previous Intel rig. So from a 7700K to a 9900KS, and he's still gonna get overclocking support with a beefier, more modern Z series motherboard. We'll keep his RAM in there. Actually, we can recycle the CPU cooler since it's the same socket layout, and everything else will be the same. We just need to tackle this, yeah, obvious rat's nest down here. Now after powering the system on, making sure that his fans were spinning, making sure the RGB was on, it's not synced up yet because, well, he needs to download software to do that. I noticed that neither of the drives in his build have boot volumes on them. They're both Samsung SSDs, one of them is larger than the other, but neither has any created volume at all. In fact, these look almost brand new. If you look in the, I have Windows Media Creation Tool pulled up here just to confirm that no volumes exist, and sure enough, both Drive 0 and Drive 1 have 100% unallocated space. So like I said, if you bought one of these from Best Buy, this is what you would see. Well, both of these are like that, so I'm gonna ask the viewer what he wants me to do, which drive he wants me to install Windows on, assuming he wants Windows, and then we can push this build to the side because otherwise it's working again. Mission accomplished. We still have an elephant in the room though, and that's the platform that we previously removed, the Z270 board and the 7700K. Which of those is bad? I don't have other components from that generation to swap with right now, so we're gonna have to go fishing. So it has been a few days since filming that last clip you just saw, and I wanted to take some time to gather not only a Z270 motherboard that had both native Skylake and Kaby Lake support, but also I wanted to have a Kaby Lake CPU, or just even a Skylake CPU, something I could use to run with that Z270 board to swap out with his as well. Now, I've already returned his system, so you're gonna see it at the end of the video when I do the outro and stuff. I'll be wearing my old shirt, but I'm filming this scene much later because, again, I had to wait for that hardware to show up. His system is good to go, and that's why I already returned it, because it had those upgrades that I just showed you. But at this point, I still want to narrow down whether it's the motherboard from his old system at fault or its CPU. This here is the motherboard and CPU from the broken system, the one that we started the video off with. You can see this is the Core i7-7700K. I've got a Core i5-6500 here I bought from a gentleman named Ari. I appreciate you, Ari. And the Maximus 9 Hero here, the Z270 motherboard I bought from Shannon. I appreciate you, Shannon. You know who you are. This is a pretty beast board here, and he didn't even want me to pay for it. I just covered shipping for him, so big thanks to him. We've got two components here that we do still need to test, so we want to make sure, especially in shipping with this motherboard, that everything works. Once we confirm that both the CPU and the motherboard work in here, then we want to take this CPU and put it into this viewer's motherboard. If we don't get a post, that means it's the motherboard to blame, and if we do get a post, then it's probably the CPU to blame, and we'll take the 7700K, we'll throw that into this motherboard to confirm that finding, if that is how it plays out. So just to give you a rundown, that's what I'm about to do. Here we go. You can plug HDMI directly into the motherboard because these CPUs have integrated graphics. Everything else is wired up, and yeah, let's give it a go. So this here is with the two that I just bought. I'm just confirming that these work before we start swapping other components around. I have no fan just because the system's not going to be on that long. Using, yeah, we got a Dr. Debug up here so I can see what it's doing. Yep, there we go, boot light. All right, so these two components work. That's great. I had no doubt. These two people were really cool, and I appreciate their help in this video. And now for the tricky part. So we're gonna put his 7700K into this rig now that we've confirmed that this motherboard is functional. We're gonna see if we get a picture out now. 7700K, it's a Kaby Lake CPU, but it should still have an IGP, and that's why we don't need a discrete graphics card, in case you're wondering. Slide this one on in, nice and carefully, and lock the retention arm again. Are we gonna get a post? That is the ultimate question. Now, if I had to wager, if I was a betting man, I'd say the CPU is perfectly fine. Wow. Wow, we've got a Dr. Debug 0 or OA. That is not good. So if I had been a betting man, I'd have lost a lot of money. This Dr. Debug indicator right here is indicating that the CPU is fried. And it doesn't matter which slot I use for this single DIMM. It could be channel A, channel B, slot 1, or slot 2 for either channel. The system still will not post. I think we've just got a totally bricked CPU. And by process of elimination, that means that this viewer's motherboard, assuming the platform itself wasn't totally toast, should be fully functional. That's what we've got installed now. We're gonna power it back on. This board we do have to manually jump. Let's see here. Motherboard does the exact same thing on the debug LED. Wow, you know what? Maybe the motherboard is what killed the CPU. Maybe I just killed my 6500 by putting it in this motherboard. Oh, no, it's booted. What? Okay, we've got the, I don't know, something might be wrong with the debug LED thing. I'll show you guys right here what it does. It kind of flickers for a second and then cuts back out. Well, that's what it was doing with the 7700K as well, except from this point on, it just stayed off. But here, it boots up. The boot LED lights up and we have a post. It's just the CPU, a dead 7700K that was giving this viewer such a headache.
A few moments later.
Okay, in another turn of events, did not think to check this. I always check it with Ryzen CPUs, but I didn't think to check it with an Intel CPU because it doesn't usually happen. This CPU was purchased secondhand. Actually, the viewer knew who he purchased it from. I think it was a family member. I believe it was working, so it's kind of weird that it would die right in transport. It's very easy to ship these. I didn't check the contact points on the back of the chip. So I'm gonna get out of the shot here so it doesn't focus on my face, and I'm gonna show you what it looks like, right? So that's the back side of the 7700K. Now, if you notice down here at the bottom, we've got a weird little spot. I believe this was preventing proper contact between this contact pad and the pins in the socket. So, if I'm correct, if we clean this, it should work. Because again, it's very rare that CPUs just die. And I stand by that. I'm gonna clean this thing up. We're gonna put it back in that board. For one final hoorah, let's see if all of this was for nothing. I mean, at the end of the day, at least the viewer got a really nice platform upgrade, right? 9900KS and a Z390 motherboard. And that's a really good upgrade. So I don't regret the upgrade itself. I just wish I had noticed this a bit sooner because I feel kind of stupid now. Just gonna use a Q-tip and some IPA. The same stuff I use in the PCDC series. And you can see we've already got a pretty big smudge picked up on the Q-tip there. I'm pretty confident this is gonna fix the CPU. I can't believe I didn't check this sooner. Oh my gosh, I feel so stupid. I always do this with Ryzen, and I just figure, I don't know. I checked the socket here. I did not check the back of the CPU. Who the heck has a smudge like that on the back of their CPU? I don't know. It's no excuse. I should have caught it earlier. Right, so this looks so much better. Back in goes his 7700K. What do we have? Power on at the rear. Gonna jump the pins here. Oh, I'm gonna be so thrilled if this works. Come on, give me something. It is, it's working. Yeah, yes! I'm such an idiot, but I'm so happy. It worked. It worked. Wow, we've got a VGA light. I'm not sure what that's for. We didn't get that with the 6500 in here. But, oh no, it's on boot now. Okay, cool. So, wow. That is really something. It literally just came down to the smudge on the back of his CPU. Another one for the books, and another one that I will never, ever again forget to check. Even if it's an Intel CPU, folks, and you're having issues, you've narrowed it down to the CPU itself, before you throw it in the trash, maybe check the contact points on the back of it if it's an Intel chip. If it is a Ryzen CPU, obviously check the pins, make sure there are none that are bent or straight up missing. And always check the sockets of both platforms as well. There could be something lodged in either of those. You could be missing pins on the LGA side of things. But yeah, this, wow. I'm super happy. That means I can keep the 7700K. I mean, I gave him a 9900KS, and I bought a 6500 because, well, I figured why not? I want to test. But really a 7700K was fine. So now I have 3 Skylake or Kaby Lake CPUs laying around. I didn't really need that many, but I suppose I kind of brought that on myself. This was all over the place. I still can't believe it just came down to a simple smudge. So we fixed his issue. Granted, it took me, again, a lot longer than it probably should have. We confirmed that his motherboard is just fine. We also confirmed that his CPU is just fine. So thanks for watching this far into the video. I do hope at the very least you were entertained by this one, but maybe you also learned a thing or two, and that's a win-win because I'm learning as I go as well. I don't claim to know everything about PCs, especially on the software side, but even hardware, though I've been working with it for several years now, which is kind of hard to believe that much time has gone by. I'm not very old, I'm only 26, about to turn 27. I still run into new things almost every day, especially in this playlist here. So it kind of kicks me out of my comfort zone and forces me to experiment a bit, troubleshoot, and try new things, learn, sometimes fail, sometimes succeed, and all of that is documented on camera for all of you. So maybe if you run into a similar situation as this one, you'll be better prepared to diagnose it, troubleshoot it, know where to start with, know how to narrow down that specific component that is giving you a massive headache. With that, if you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. I would appreciate that. Or reach out if you live in the Orlando, Florida area and you have an issue with your system, more than likely hardware related. I would be more than happy to help for free, no charge at all. And leave a comment down below, let me know what you'd like to see next. Did I already say that? I don't know if I said that yet. If I did, I'm gonna sound really stupid. If I didn't, there you go. Thanks for watching. My name is Greg. Thanks for learning with me.